which is very core to your heart in terms of this is the maximum where people practice in company law when you become okay, I'm not visible to you. It is visible now. Okay, so I'm hope I'm visible now. Yes. Okay, great. So good morning to all of you. Now my name is Advocate CS Dipti Dore. So I'm based out of Pune. I'm into company law practice. I'm into corporate laws, labor laws in terms of in-house counsel. So I was working as a corporate counsel and company secretary for quite a while, almost 10 plus years. And then I've moved into my legal practice. So I practice NCLTs in terms of contract law advisory, company law advisory. So I'm also a faculty at ILS Law College, which is one of the premier law colleges in India. I guess my network, I hope it is clear. Yes, okay, fine. So there was some network connectivity, I guess, due to the COVID scenario. This might be taking technical issues. Okay, fine. Yes, all good. Great, great, great. So basically, I was helping you with the introduction in terms of who am I, what I do. So again, things are like I am Advocate Deepthi Doe, and I am based out of Pune, is what I was trying to help you. So today we are going to start with company law. Just bear sometimes for a moments when there is a network issue, because yes, I think I'm audible now to everybody. Great. And there might be some technical issues at your end as well. So since you get used to all this, I guess it will take a while, but things go smoothly afterwards. Okay? Yes, great. Starting with company law, I guess what it is in terms of company law, what is your understanding about company? What is your understanding about LLP? What is your understanding about a sole proprietorship? So, considering all this, today I'm going to help you with what is company, what is LLP, what is a sole proprietorship, and what is, of course, a partnership and all. So I will be some ground rules for how I do take care of the portion. So I take generally all the important aspects of the particular topic. It will not be easy for me to cover each and every line in the module, But yes, it will be more or less more important topics which you are not able generally to do at home. It is not easy, like a legal interpretation, the legal words which are being used in a particular statute. So these are not generally easy to understand. So I am going to help you the legal interpretation of it. In terms of logical reasoning, we will also cover simultaneously each and every, because the logical reasoning part is also huge. So we'll be also taking simultaneously some portion of logical reasoning every day, so that it doesn't get bombarded to you in a day's time, because those are all, if you must have gone through the syllabus, those are mostly kind of problems likewise. So that will become easy for you in terms of understanding, and we concentrate on law aspect and some portion on logical reasoning. Okay. We are going to do constitution. We are going to do all. I'm going to cover all the chapters, but only the sequence might not be what has been communicated to. If at all it has been communicated, the sequence might be a bit different. But yes, you can always kind of help me with wherever you want have any pain points. Like I see in my chat, you can always raise questions if you have any questions whenever I am taking a particular chapter. Okay, so now with this brief introduction, I guess we are good to go to the main subject. So today I'm going to take, and I'm going to strictly be uh, confined to the module, so that we'll not be able to go travel beyond the module, because your module is also 321 pages. So I'll be strictly restricting myself to the module. So if some questions are not relevant or not there in your module, then of course I'll not be taking it. Okay, so this is what it is. Now then, uh, okay, so the word company is obviously derived from the Latin word, that is com, that is together, or panis, that is bread. Now just to give you a background that how a general business starts. So a general business starts in terms of when you want to start your business. What you do is you think about, okay, let me see whether I can be a sole proprietor, or you say whether I can be a partnership. So basically, whenever you start off wanting, or you are willing to start a particular business, you first start with, okay, let me do it myself. Then in that, what happens? So if it is a shop which you want to establish, then what happens in that shop? uh, no, Hindi. I'm being strictly advised to speak in English, since it's covering all over India students. So I may not be able to speak in Hindi. I may have take help sometimes, but not. I'm strictly advised to speak in English for all the lectures. Okay. Yes. So in terms of whenever we start a business, we require what? Okay, if I want to start a business of garments, or if I want to start a business of, say, plastic related items. Now, plastic in the sense, not the plastic which is banned, but some plastic items which can be still saleable. So then what happens is I think of, okay, fine. Or if I want to start a furniture business, what I do? Okay, fine. I'm just into trading of furniture. So I just buy the raw material, I build it, and then I kind of sell it off. So here what happens is I what is the first important thing which is required for a particular business is capital, right? I need some money. What is capital? It can be in terms of money, obviously, or it can be a human capital in terms of the labor which are involved, or it can be any other capital, like for example, so intellectual property, that is also a capital sometimes. So here capital, but I'm going to refer to monetary aspect. So here capital, if I have to collect, if I want capital in the sense, what if I want to start a business, then what I'm going to require is I would require money, right? If I want to take a shop, then I want to purchase raw materials, I'm going to require some money. So that money comes either in my from my savings account, or say my parents help me, or my friends help me. This is the way by which I garner the funds. Or it can be by way of a bank, that I don't have any money but I have some security. I go to a bank, and of course the bank will give me a loan against whatever I have put in as a mortgage. So here again, I'm getting some funds or some money. Now, what we typically call this as capital, right? In an accounting language or be it a company law language, it will be treated as capital because I need the funds to start my business. So here, that money which I'm going to collect will be treated as capital. Now, there are two types of capital. Say, for example, owned capital, that is the money which I put in, and a borrowed capital, that is which I borrow. And which borrow, whenever I borrow, obviously it might be with interest, without interest, or it might be at when we say borrowing means what? We have to return the money to that particular person from whom we are taking that money. So here, by which I can start my business. चलो अभी मेरा I got the capital. I took a shop on lease, and then I bought the raw material, and then I processed it, and I start selling it. But at some point of time, what is going to happen? Now here, what is happening? I'm the sole person who is responsible for getting money, right? I'm the sole person in terms of basically in terms of what I'm going to earn profit out of it. So here, what is important, I am also helping you in the chat box. Okay, the spelling because of while I'm talking might be wrong. So it is double S, it has happened. Okay. So in terms of sole proprietorship, what we see is capital is something which is bought by the owner. Yes. Then what are the other aspects? Profit sharing. So whether it is profits or whether it is loss, it's the only thing. Profit loss is also I'm going to share it. Whether it is loss, yes, one man army typically, that I whatever happens to my business, it is all mine. Good, bad, nothing, yes. And yes, of course, there is unlimited liability, as rightly pointed out. Unlimited liability means, so say for example, I took money from lenders and I'm now unable to pay that money because say because of the COVID, I just opened my shop before COVID scenario, and unfortunately before I could sell something, COVID happened, and now I'm not able to sell a single item, and there is a plus I have to pay the rent and everything. And what is going to happen? Obviously, I'm not able to pay the debts which I have incurred. So here what is going to happen is the lender say, okay, give us the money back. But then I may say, no, I don't have the money in my business because the money which I have already, I could not pay you back because I could not sell you. Then what is going to happen? The lender would say, okay, you have got a car, give me that car. I'm okay with it. You don't have money, fine, give me the car. So what here exactly is happening? Uh, my personal assets, okay? My personal assets are going to be taken my personal assets are going to be taken by the lenders if my business are unable to pay the money. So here personal assets are can get attached, what we typically called in the legal language. The personal assets of mine can get attached and the lenders can take away my personal assets because even if I give some name to my business, okay, if I give some name to my business, the business and me are one and the same thing. It is not something different, right? Even if I open a shop, people are going to see it is my shop. People are not going to see, oh, this is Deepti and this is her shop. No, this is Deepti's shop. So basically, it is one and the same thing. And that's why my liability, which is the most important part of all the kind of entities by which you start the business, is liability. My liability becomes unlimited. So whatever personal I have got, money, gold, whatever I have got, people will say you're not able to pay, fine, give me this, give me that. So this there is no distinction between my personal assets and my business assets. So this is what the weakest point or a disadvantage of a sole proprietorship. Plus, what are the advantages? Now, if we see a quick advantage list, what are the advantages? Advantages are I'm the sole controller. I can do whatever. I can hire people. I can fire people. I can bring assets. So the decision making involved is only with me. Yes, it is quick, and plus I'm only the person who is going to kind of take the decision. Plus, the important aspect, I got complete freedom. I don't have any regulatory. Plus, if you see the law angle to it, that what are the legal formalities when I start a sole proprietorship? Not very much. It is only the Shops and Establishment Act under which I have to get registered. There is no kind of binding on me that how much I should, like what decisions I should take. I'm not responsible to anybody because it is my personal assets. Yes, secrecy can be maintained perfect. Then that, like I told you, hire and fire, I can decide my own terms. Even if it is profit loss, the entire profit is mine. I don't have to share it with anybody. Even if there is a loss, yes, it is my loss, but my profit is the most important thing which I'm going to enjoy at any liberty. I'm not required, oh, you don't have to take away the profits or I have to distribute the profits. That's not going to happen. So these are the advantages of sole proprietorship. But what are the disadvantages? The biggest disadvantage is unlimited liability, and one of the advantages is what? Less compliance or less legal things which come into picture. I can do on my own. I'm not too much regulated, so there is no compliance, no filing apart from my income tax or other if any laws are applicable because of the way in which I am working. So apart from this, I don't have too much of compliance. Then, of course, what are the shortcomings are I may have a limited capital. To some extent, I'm going to feel that, okay, I'm now if I want to expand, now my business is going well. Like considering that my furniture business is superb and people are just buying stuff out of my shop and great. And now I'm in need of funds, but then still I'll be having limitation, right? That if I'm put in 1 CR, the bank would say, okay, your business is going great, but your first capital, you have not paid the loan which you have already borrowed. So first pay that loan and then you can take another loan, right? So to some extent, how much ever I say, there will be some limitation on how I get in the money. So the capital in terms of which I put in will always be to the extent limited, because their bank will say, okay, how many assets you have got, then only will give you a loan, right? Or what happen if you die, then how are you going to recover, how we can recover the loan? So these things will always remain in terms of a sole proprietorship. Now we are going to see what happens in terms of partnership. Yes. So here what happens when I think that, okay, now it is enough, I can't expand more, but I need to have something more. I'm my business is great, but I want to do something more. Then what I'm going to do is I may think, oh, this person is a nice and he's actually helping me out. Maybe he is a good at finance and he can handle the finance, or maybe he's good at labor, or he is good at marketing. So let me have a partnership with him. So here what I do is I bring more people involved, and the reason being my duties get assigned, my roles get assigned, right? Here I'm the person who is running all, where I'm the CEO, I'm the peon, I'm the everything, right? But when I introduce somebody, my liabilities also get split in terms of, okay, fine, now this person can also bring in more funds. Yes, more funds will be available, more expertise can be garnered. So this is the way by which a person gets introduced as a partner, and then that becomes a partnership. Now you have to keep in mind always that partnership is something which is for profit. So even if it is not registered, even if it is not in writing, that doesn't mean that it is not a partnership. Because partnership registration as per the Indian Partnership Act is optional. Now, in some states, it is required to be registered, like say in the state of Maharashtra. But as a central act, if we see, the partnership registration is optional. Of course, there are some additions that if you want to sue the partnership, then it is different, or the advantages are more if you have a registered partnership. But please remember, you have to go by way of which the transaction is structured. Okay, so just it is not in writing doesn't mean it is not a partnership. So, say for example, I have this people on the group, and I say, okay, 10 of you, let's start a project, and whereby we do a particular kind of all India activity. We sell something COVID related masks. Let's start that venture. And I say, okay, we will take 100 or we'll put in 1 lakh rupees each, and we will sell it all over pan India basis. And here what I say, okay, fine, we will distribute the masks, we'll prepare it, and then whatever profits are 10% everybody will take, so that it will become 100%. So 10% profit is what will be shared. So if we kind of get a mask, prepare a mask for say 40 rupees and we sell it at 50 rupees, so here that 10 rupees is the profit which will be divided among us. So this is what I say. Now here what I'm doing is, I'm saying is we will all sell together, right? So you may sell in Haryana, some can sell in Delhi, I can sell in Pune, and likewise we say, okay, whatever is the profit we will distribute amongst ourselves. Now my question is whether this is a partnership. What do you think? Whether this is a partnership which I spoke to you that, okay, let's come together and then we kind of say, okay, I see no and I can see yes as well. So the reason I'm asking is, now I'm not registered this, okay? But yes, it is a partnership because the thing is we are acting on behalf of each other. Then the most important thing is we have agreed to share the profits amongst ourselves. And of course, we are binding each other. Like I told you, I would be representing the partnership, and I'm going to say that, okay, I'm the partnership of ABC, and here I'm going to sell the masks. And that's why, even though that's what I'm trying to say you, even if it is not written anywhere, like a registered proper document, but the transaction is such that it is a partnership. And like I'm telling you, it is not necessary that the partnership has to be registered. And you may find hundreds of examples where in day-to-day life where we get into partnership and we do the business, just that you don't understand it is a partnership kind of business because you have not found the ingredients of partnership. So the ingredients of partnership are, A, we are agreeing to work for each other in the sense we are agents of each other. If I have to use the correct technical legal language, we are agents of each other, partners of each other. I can represent you saying, if the name of our partnership is ABC partnership, then I'm going to say, okay, I'm selling the masks on behalf of ABC partnership. And here, the whatever profits are, we are going to share among each other. We are going to distribute it as per the percentage which is being put or decided. So this is how it becomes a partnership. Now, yes, if it is not registered, still can file. Okay, we will see that. So what I mean to say here, when we introduce the partnership concept, we kind of first understand that by way of the profit sharing. So this is the distinction, and a partnership firm is not a distinct. This is a most key aspect which you have to remember. If I am a partner of a particular firm and the entity name is called as firm, so together when all partners are, we call it as firm. Okay, so we are now all legal students. We should use correct legal language. So whenever there is a partnership involved, the entity under which the people are running is called as a firm. So a partnership firm is not distinct from the several persons who have composed it. Now, what does that mean is, again, it is not a different entity recognized under a law or recognized differently. Meaning, partnership and me are one and the same people. In technical legal language, these are not two different entities. Now, how this is? Yes, unlimited liability. So even if any of us kind of, represent each other and we suffer losses, then that loss is of partnership and that loss belongs to us because we and partnership are not two different entities. We are one and the same people. So if a partner dies, then of course there is then that partnership will have to be kind of, it doesn't remain the same, the constitution doesn't remain the same, right? If two partners are there, if the two partners dies, what happened? The partnership will also die its natural death. because the persons and partnership are not different person. Yes, it gets dissolved, there is a process of dissolution. Yes, right. So what happens is those things get into picture, but if the people die, the partnership dies unless there is some other partner which is being introduced. So it is a kind of reconstituted, or how the partnership is drafted. So likewise, there are many aspects to it, but we have to what remember here is a partnership firm is not distinct from the several persons who composed it. Then what happens is property. In terms of property, even if the name is on the partnership, what typically happens is it is of the partners, right? They say, okay, give my 1/3 share, or give my 1/10 share which I have in the partnership. Meaning, give that 1/10 so asset which we have bought it. So all the assets, all the money, right, in the partnership. So for example, we have got 1 lakh rupees in our bank account, and I say, okay, I'm no more interested in the partnership. I want to get out of it. Give me my share, is what I say, right? I would say, give me my share in the partnership. So here, the assets and the partners are not, it is all of the partners only in the sense. So that 1/10, when I'm asking that, okay, give me my share in the money, I would just take that 1/10. So the assets and partners are the same people, it is of the same people, even if it is in the name of partnership. So the key principle is, in a partnership, the property of the firm is the property of individuals comprising it. This is a very important feature, unlike what we are going to see, which is very different in case of a company or in case of a LLP, which we will see. But for partnership, please remember, the property of the firm is the property of individuals, that is, a partners. Then, of course, creditors of a partnership are creditors of individual partners. So, like I told you, even if we are starting partnership, the creditors will say, "Okay, give me your. You are not able to pay. You had a partnership. Now, give me your personal assets because you are not able to pay the money which you had promised me." So, the partnership and the creditors are the creditors of the partnership are also the creditors of individual partners. It is no way different, because there is no legal difference between the partnership and the partners involved. Then, of course, partners are agents. This is the key principle in case of the partnership. Partnership is all about agency. Agent means you can represent the partnership. So, say for example, you and I are partners. Okay. Now, what I would say, if I want to get a contract, okay, what I would say, okay, fine. I'm a partner of ABC firm, and I'm willing to take a particular, like, I'm willing to sign this particular contract on my behalf, on the behalf of partnership. So I'm acting as an agent of the partnership and, of course, the other partner. So just take a scenario, I'm into legal. Okay, as we all know, the professionals, or the most common kind of entities which is allowed in the legal profession is partnership. Right now, people are moving to LLPs, but it has been most kind of preferred entity for a while, until we had the LLP Act, right? So LLP, now before that, partnership is something. Now I and two one of my advocate friend is a partner. Now what we do is, if I talk to somebody and I get an assignment. Now what I'm actually doing here is, if I take that assignment, I sign the contract, I'm binding myself, the partnership, and also the other partner whom it is involved, right? So here I'm the agent of the partnership, as well as the partner who is partner to me. So here, partners are the agents of the firm, is a very important principle. A partner is an agent of the partnership as well as the agent of other partner. So I'm the principal, I'm also the agent of partnership. Okay, so I can bind and I also can get bind by other partner. Then what we are going to see is, a partner cannot contract with his firm, whereas a member can. So I cannot have a contract with a partnership firm because it is one and the same person involved. So this is something important. Restrictions on partners' authority is contained in partnership contract, do not bind outsiders. Now what is this? The most important principle over here is, partnership deed is the important document which governs the understanding between partners. Okay, that what is my share, what is my role, what is my liability. Yes, so these all things are governed under one particular agreement, which is called as partnership deed. Now, here what happens is this is very different when it comes to company, and we'll see that. But just try to understand that the regulation from a regulatory or legal perspective, partnership is governed by Partnership Act. Okay, so the partnership has got a specific act towards it. It is called as Partnership Act. Partnership Act governs all the law related to partnership, but still if you see from a compliance or regulatory standpoint, the laws are very less compared to a company or LLP. So the compliance or regulatory aspect of a partnership are very moderately kind of regulated than the company or LLP. But yes, the regulation, there is an act which we call as Partnership Act when it comes to a partnership, and unlike sole proprietorship, it is still a bit regulated, not like sole proprietorship where you are not accountable responsible unless you fill your personal income taxes and all. But here there is a tax audit and things are involved when there is a when you cross a certain threshold and all. Okay, so this is what all about a partnership. Then there is another form of entity which is called as joint Hindu family business. Now, what is, or this is typically also called as HUF. Okay, this is typically called as HUF as well. What is called as Hindu undivided family or joint Hindu joint family business. So HUF or joint Hindu joint family business. Now what happens here? If you are, so there are two schools in that, Mitakshara and all. Since it is not in your portion, I'm not going to take it in detail. So I'll be just restricting to what is there in your module. Yes, Hindu undivided family. So you get here a part of this Hindu undivided family just by being, if you are having a birth in that family and that family has a HUF, then by just birth, you get, member of that HUF. That is a Hindu undivided family. The person who is in charge of that Hindu undivided family is called Karta. Yes, that is called as Karta. Here, Karta has the sole authority to contract debts for the purpose of business. And the other people who are part of that HUF are called as co-parceners. So, this is the concept which you have to remember, co-parceners and Karta. So here, by way of a birth, you become a member of H. Whereas in terms of partnership, it doesn't become naturally that you kind of become a member, and which is also the case of company. Again, we are going to see company in detail, but I'm just concentrating on HUF, that what is the difference. Whereas Hindu, so you have to just remember this, Hindu undivided family consists of homogeneous, just let me click this. Yes. So Hindu undivided family consists of homogeneous members since it consists of members of joint family. So here everything is about family. So in a partnership, it is not necessary that you have to have a family, like a person in your family. You can have a partnership with anybody, right? It is not necessary that the person has to be from your family only. But here, yes, it is out of family. Then here what Karta has the sole authority to contract debts, which is a very important feature. And a person becomes a member of joint Hindu family by virtue of birth. Like I told you, it's just that there is a HUF. Now, for example, my family has got a HUF. There is a birth in the family, the person automatically becomes the member of HUF. There is no provision into the effect of company. We are going to see that. No registration is compulsory for carrying on a business for gain by a joint Hindu family, even if the number of members exceed 20. This is the key feature, that no registration is compulsory Again, there can be benefits out of it, and it is always advisable to register it, but no registration is compulsory on the business for a gain by HUF. So this is something which you have to remember. Now, what is okay? Fine. You understand partnership. You understand about sole proprietorship. You understand about joint Hindu family business, or typically what I called as HUF. Okay, I see many questions in the chat box, but like I told you guys, the portion is very large. And if I don't restrict myself to what is there in your textbook, then we will never be able to complete the portion to the extent whichever we can. Okay, so please pardon me if I ignore some questions, because if those are not in the textbook, I will not be able to take it, because if you see, it's a huge portion and it's very hard to cover in what some 10 lectures. Okay, so it is, we would restrict to what we have. Then we see that what is a kind of LLP. Now we saw what is sole proprietorship, we saw what is partnership. Now we're going to see in detail about what is LLP. Because I know many people ask, okay, what is this LLP? That is limited liability partnership. Now, this is somewhat a new concept, not a obviously very nascent concept, but yes, compared to what we had in terms of partnership or sole proprietorship, this is a relatively new concept, because we see that sole proprietorship and partnerships have been like since ancient times we had this, but LLP is something which, if you see, the act is not that old. So LLP, what we saw in partnership was that the major issue that, okay, why I would be afraid to become a partner of somebody if I don't trust. If, like, for example, you say, ma'am, can you be your partner? I'm say, okay, let me know who you are, what you do, what is your credit worthiness. Because why? I'm concerned that what if you fail in your business, my personal assets are going to get attached, my I'm going to get unlimited liability because of you fail in the business, even though I'm just a sleeping partner. That is, I'm just contributing the money, I am not actually into day-to-day affairs of the partnership. But I would say, oh, no, I don't want to risk my like the money which I have put in. I don't want to become a partner with you. Plus, what if you do anything issues? I'm also going to suffer that, because I'm the agent and you are the agent of mine, or the partnership as such. But then what happens is, in order to simplify the business, but to retain the limited liability, like what is limited liability, which we have been seeing is my personal assets should not get attached to it, and whatever I have put in money, it should be restricted only to that. So say for example, 1 lakh rupees I've invested, what I would prefer is, okay, fine, I'm happy to risk that 1 lakh rupees, but beyond that nothing should come as a liability to me. Right, I'm okay, I know that if whatever max thing can happen is I'll not get that 1 lakh rupees back, or I'll not get some profit on that 1 lakh rupees. But this is the maximum thing which can happen to me, right? I would always want that I know that, okay, this is what the liability which can come to me. I should be assured that my liability will not go to a certain amount or will not go beyond this. Max thing is what? I lose this money. Fine, but not beyond that, right? So this is the beauty of what we called as limited liability. So here, limited liability is going to be an important, so LLP, between distinction between company and LLP. So what is LLP? The LLP is nothing like a partnership. Yes, it has got the features of partnership. It is also called as a firm, but the key aspect is the LLP comes into existence only when you register it, unlike the partnership, right? I gave you an example where we say, okay, we distribute masks. You remember this example a few moments back I gave you, that we'll distribute the masks and we'll take away the profits and I can sell here and you can sell there, right? We did not register anything, but I told you, yes, it was a partnership. But in case of a LLP, it comes into existence only when you first register it. Okay, registration is compulsory for LLP. The entity will not come into picture unless it is being registered. And of course, the partners will be called as a partners. But yes, registration is the key thing until which the LLP does not come into existence. And that is why the partners and the LLP are two different concepts. That is, the liability remains to the extent to which the money is put in the partnership, and these two are not same persons. LLP is a different because it is recognized under the statute of Limited Liability Partnership Act. It comes into registration, it comes into existence only when it is recognized under the eyes of law. So that's why the key features or key distinction between a partnership and LLP are: partners are different in case of a LLP because it is a registered entity, and what we typically call it as, I'll help you with the word, just give me a moment, I'm typing here, legal fiction, because it is a entity which is registered under the law, and the law recognizes is, oh, this is a contract with the LLP. That is, it is not a contract with the partners. The law looks LLP or company as a separate entity, in the sense it can hold assets in its name, it can employ people, it can be having incur liability, it can have all the facilities, and it can enjoy all the benefits like a natural person. But in the law it will be treated as a separate, and this is what we called as, and which is similar to the concept of a company. This is a commonalities between a LLP and the company form, which is called as separate legal entity. Okay, there is a concept which is called as separate, yes, so there is a concept which is called as separate legal entity. Yes. What is separate legal entity? Separate legal entity means it is distinct from its persons who have incorporated it or persons who have formed it. So here, even though I and you have formed a LLP, but I am different, LLP is different. The LLP can hold profits. The LLP can, contest a particular contract. I can sue somebody, but it's not me. I am different. LLP is different. Okay, so here my liability is limited to the extent I have put in as a capital in the LLP. I will not have the more kind of liability when it comes to the money I have put in. My liability is not unlimited, and that's what is being mentioned in the words limited liability partnership. Limited liability is the key feature which is there in the LLP. And of course, as it comes, it is not by birth. Like, for example, if there is a birth in the family, that doesn't become the partner of LLP. No, like we saw in the HUF, that is not the case in the LLP. Then what is the important feature is LLP is, it continues its existence irrespective of the change in partners. So like we saw, if partners die, then the partnership can get dissolved. But here the LLP is not going to get dissolved unless you, since it has come into existence by way of a legal fiction, that you register it under the law. Similarly, it cannot die its natural death. It has to go through the same legal process, same in the sense it has to go through the legal process to have its operations closed. So even if there is a death of all partners, the LLP will be still there because it is created by a legal way or a legal route. And that is what we call it as a legal fiction, because it is come by way of getting triggered the law in place, and that's why when we use that law in place, it has to die by way of a operation of law only. It cannot die its natural death even if the partners, all partners die. Okay, LLP can continue its existence irrespective of change in partners. It is capable of entering into contracts and holding property. LLP is a separate legal entity Legal fiction. Legal fiction, again I'm telling you, fiction means it is something you can say abstract, but it is coming by way of a law, that you're taking a help of a law and you're bringing something into existence. Okay, it is not coming naturally, right? Like you and I have got a natural birth or a natural death, we are going to die a natural death. But in case of a LLP, you have triggered a law and brought a particular entity into existence. Similarly, which is with the company, you use the Companies Act in place and then you bring in the company in picture. Registration, and that's why I'm telling you, registration is mandatory in terms of LLP and company form. You cannot say that a company or a LLP has come into picture unless you have triggered the law, unless you have put in the law in place, you have made the registration, you have taken the due course, and then only when the certificate, like you and I have got a birth certificate to express or show that this is what we are and this is where my birth has taken place. Similarly, the LLP and the company gets a certificate, what is called as certificate of incorporation. And that is when you say, once you get that certificate, then only the entities like company and LLP come into existence. Beyond which, even if you say before that my LLP or my company, no, it is a wrong usage of word, wrong usage of legal words. A company also comes into existence when you use the Companies Act. Now we have got Companies Act 2013, and then you can say that yes, now the company has come into existence when you use the company law. And there is also an how the company gets into picture or how the company is incorporated, but that's what it is. Okay, so this is what the LLP is. Yes, so that is also called as a body corporate and a legal entity separate from the partners. So this is what LLP is different, and the partners are different. So this is what we have understood from by way of a LLP. Now I'm going to tell you, since we have seen what is sole proprietorship, what is partnership, what is HUF, that is joint Hindu family, we are going to now see what is a company. After all these things, what happened here also, if the capital were always limited, even though there are natural persons, how many we are going to bring in, right? We cannot bring thousands. Can you imagine, like if we have got 1,000 participants here, can you just imagine out of your random imagination that what we decide, okay, let's form a partnership, 1,000 people partnership. Okay, do you think this is practically feasible to actually operate in terms of the decision making or the way the functioning of partnership? No, this is not practically possible, right? Thousands are people are partners involved, and then I say, okay, how did you not tell me? Why did you do this in Delhi? Why have you done this in Haryana? I'm not getting the profit. Chaotic situation where everybody is kind of getting involved, everybody has put in money, and everybody is expecting money. So practically, there will be some sort of kind of issue when the number is beyond, where we can meet together and kind of thing. So that practically thing can always be there. So that is going to always remain, that how are we going to take decisions even if we are 200 people? How are we going to take a decision? No, that is not possible. So here there is going to be some kind of practical disadvantage when it comes to LLP, like I'm telling you. Now imagine a company like Reliance. So that's why people form company, and that's what we are going to now see, the features of company as a, why company is formed or why the company becomes an important thing. This is what we are going to see, that what are the natural characteristics of the company, that is important. Now if you understand the definition of what is a company, if we I have to give you a legal definition, the legal definition is, company means a company. And this you have to constantly remember. The definition, the legal definition of a company is, company means a company which is registered under any company law. So the company law can be of Yes, so company law can be the today's company law, that is Companies Act 2013 is what we have. It can be the Companies Act 1956, which was the earlier law which got repealed, and then we had this Companies Act 2013. Okay, so it can be under any company law. What is at the time being in is the law of land. Okay, so this law, but it has to be that as per that. Now, for example, Reliance Industries, for example, it was formed in somewhere in some 19th whatever it is. So at that point of time, whatever is the company law in picture, if the Reliance Industries is formed as per that law, yes, today also it is a valid company, because at that particular point the company law was there and that entity was formed under the company law. But so all the any company which is registered under the company law at that particular prevalent time becomes a company, and the previous companies also remain company. It doesn't mean that the Companies Act 1956 meaning now we don't have a company. No, it the law has changed means those are no more a company. Those still remain the companies, but the act is different now. That's it. But so the company definition is a company is a company registered and incorporated under the Companies Act. Now, like I was telling you, that in case of a LLP, it is very difficult if I have to converse with 200 people and then we start a company, start a LLP for that matter. It's very difficult, right? So at some point, there is going to be a issue with reference to capital, or with reference to management, or with reference to understanding, or with reference to operations, management. There are going to be issues that you can't form a LLP. Okay, my liability is limited. But can you imagine, like I told you, 200 people, are all are saying partners of a particular LLP. The administration, the management, the capital will always be an issue, that how much are we going to kind of garner the funds. And that is why the company form is the most preferred form of entity, because here what has happened is you can become, now there are two concepts in the way of a company. So like I was telling you that the operations, the managements are not easy tasks. So here what has happened is there are two important features of the nature of existence, or how the company operates. Those are called as shareholders. Okay, so one entity is what, or one feature of the component of the company is shareholders, and the other is called as board of directors. Okay, board of directors. Now what are the shareholders? Shareholder means, say for example, I am the shareholder of Reliance Industries. What does that mean is I have just invested. It can be 10 rupees, it can be 1,000 rupees, it can be 1 lakh rupees, it can be 10 crores rupees, whatever. So I have just invested a particular money in that company, and that's why I'm called as shareholder. Because share, if you consider what is share capital here in terms of a company, and why I am called as a shareholder. Imagine a pizza. Okay, if you imagine a pizza, if you take particular pieces, right, quarters of that pizza, if there are 8 people, what do? You divide that pizza into 8 shapes. Okay, and then you say, okay, this is your share, this is your share. Or if I say, okay, I'm just crazy of pizza, I want the largest share in the pizza. So then you give me, say, oh, you become, ma'am is new, let's let her give her, she's been explaining, you become very kind of me, and then you kind of give me, okay, let her enjoy a larger portion of pizza, and you give me a bigger portion. Because what you say, oh, she has invested more in that pizza, or she has paid for it, for that matter. So you say, okay, let her take or enjoy the larger share. So this is what is exactly called as share capital. So if you take an analogy of pizza, how much ever the person has invested, that becomes the share of that person, that is me, in the share capital of the company. So for example, if the capital is 1000 rupees, okay, capital is 1000 rupees, I have invested 500 rupees in that 1000 rupees, and the others have invested 100 rupees. Okay, so what I'm going to say, 50% is my share in the share capital of the company. Get you? So 50%, because half amount I have invested out of 1000 rupees, 500 rupees is what I have invested. So 50% share is mine. So if you imagine a pizza, it's just half is mine. It's my share in the share capital of the company. Yes. So that is what I have invested that money in that capital, and that becomes my share in the share capital of the company. So if you've just invested 100 rupees, so that is your share. If the same has been invested by other people, it becomes their share to the percentage of total. So that is called as share in the share capital of the company. And that is also the definition of share given in the Companies Act, that shares means the share in the share capital of the company. So if you just imagine pizza, you will always get it. Okay, this is my share, this is your share. Okay, so this is what is share. So here, like I'm telling you, I am the shareholder of whenever I invest a particular amount, I become the shareholder. Now imagine a scenario that I've invested, say 50,000 rupees in Reliance Industries. Now I'm sure all of you know Reliance Industries, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, Dhirubhai Ambani, all of you I'm sure must be familiar with that. Now if this 50,000 is what I have invested, okay, here do you think that Mr. Ambani is going to call me and ask, okay, Dipti, I want to issue a Reliance issue, rights issue, or I want to have further capital. Are you okay with it? Or do you think Mr. Ambani does call me every time and check, okay, whether whom should be appointed on the board or likewise? No. So here the concept is the shareholders, maybe I'm using the word maybe because even Mr. Mukesh Ambani is a shareholder because he is having the largest, now the pizza thing, you remember, he's having the largest chunk in the share capital of Reliance Industries. So he is also a shareholder. I am also a shareholder, but just my percentage may be very less and his percentage may be more. So here, but we both are shareholders because he has larger investment, I've got a small investment, and that's why maybe I'm a small investor, whereas he is a larger investor. Okay, but we both are shareholders. Now here what becomes an important principle is there is a separate people. Now there can be thousands and lakhs of people like me who have invested money in such companies, right? Here, what happens is what is called as board of directors. Board of directors. Now, what are these board of directors? Board of directors are the people who are responsible for the management of the company. Okay, Ambani is not a HUF. Okay, there can be thousands of entities which are floated by Ambani Group. I'm not denying that, but if we are talking about Reliance Industries, it is a company because the word limited is used. It is a company, and we are going to see how you are going to identify whether a particular entity is a company or a LLP or a partnership. Okay, we are going to come to that. So here what happens is the people who are responsible for taking day-to-day decisions of the company are called as board of directors, and board of directors and shareholders may or may not be the same. So here, like I gave you two examples where Mr. Mukesh Ambani is not going to call me and check, oh Dipti, what are we going to do with this? No, I'm just a shareholder. I'm not on the board of directors. So I'm not responsible for the management of the company. Again, my liability is only limited here to the extent to which I have invested in that company. I'm not going to get more liability than that. I know if I've invested 1000 rupees, that is the only thing what can happen to me is I'll never get that 1000 rupees back if the company goes into liquidation or winding up. Okay, but that is a maximum thing which can happen to me. I'm not going to get further liability. My personal assets are not going to get attached. Nothing is going to happen likewise. So here, the board of directors are an important people who are responsible for the management of the company. So this is a distinction that the shareholders may be different, the board of directors may be different. Now, Mr. Narayan Murthy, he is also a chairman emeritus of Infosys, but he is also a shareholder in Infosys. But I may be a shareholder in Infosys, but I'm not on the board of directors of Infosys. And like me, there can be lakhs of investors or shareholders who have just invested in that company. So here the company is a legal fiction. Now what we are going to see, what are the characteristics of this company? Okay. Uh, yes, shareholders get voting rights. Now, for example, if the how the company functions is, now for example, like I told you, yes, Mr. Mukesh Ambani is not separately going to call me and ask, okay, whether are we going to do this particular thing or not. But yes, as a shareholder, I have got the right to vote. This is an important feature of a shareholder. I get right to vote. So I am, to the extent percentage I'm holding in a particular company, I get right to vote as per that. So if I have so why Mr. Mukesh Ambani is going to, if he is okay to all the things, why it becomes okay? Because he is having the largest share. So the percentage of voting depends upon how many shares I hold in that company. Okay. So this is a way by which I express my opinion on that, because though it is not that every, now that in the statute, that is in the Companies Act, the Companies Act specifically says where you can vote and where you cannot vote. Okay, that is, these particular decisions lie with the shareholders. So say for example, today, tomorrow the company decides that that let's get into some manufacturing of like the Geo thing, the mobile aspect. So if you would have heard of Geo, the company decides let's merge Geo and Reliance into one company. So here my vote will be counted because I am the shareholder of the company. They will ask me, all the shareholders, whether are you okay with this particular decision, and if majority, depending upon what the statute says, majority or three-fourths of the people agree to a particular decision, then of course that decision is being taken. So yes, as an investor, I can exercise my right by voting on that resolutions, what we call it as a, the concept is resolutions. Resolutions is nothing but a decision. Okay, whether to merge, whether to buy this, all these are decisions. Now, as per the Companies Act lays down authority that whether the decision lies with the board, that is the people involved into the day-to-day management of the company who have been appointed by the shareholders. So the board of directors are also appointed by the shareholders. Okay, because it is my money after all, so I have the right that who should be on that board of directors, and I vote on it. Now if the votes are of course get passed, then that person becomes the director. So individually, the person is called director, and collectively, so all directors together is called as board of directors. Okay. So individually, I am as a director, but collectively, I would be called as board of directors. Okay. So this is what it is. Then, of course, what we see is corporate personality. Like I'm telling you, company is a separate person. It has got a separate, and this is what we call it as perpetual succession. What is called as perpetual succession? Perpetual succession means it is said that an atom bomb destroys all the shareholders, destroy the board of directors. Like for example, if there is like Amphan, we saw right recently there was Amphan, or unfortunately we are still having COVID, we are not out of it. So if unfortunately all the shareholders of the company die, or all the board of directors of the company die, what is going to happen to the company? No, the company is still there. Because why? It has come by way of a legal statute, right? It has come by way of a legal fiction. So the company is there even though all shareholders die, all the board of directors die. If there is an atom bomb, the analogy is given is even if that atom bomb destroys all the people, the company is still there. Because why? It is in the records, right? It gets, the owners get transferred. Like if I'm not willing to further hold shares, like I'm in need of money, I can sell my shares to somebody and somebody can buy it. So the owner keep on changing. So like a property, right? You take, if your grandfathers have grand forefathers have bought a particular property, so the property remains as it is, right? The property doesn't go anywhere. It might just change the ownership. That okay, it was with the ownership was with your like a great grandfather, then it went to your say grandfather, then it went to your father, and now it is with you. For example, the ownership keeps on changing, but things remain. So it is same with the way of company. The company remains unless it gets wound up by way of the legal process. So similarly, it has not come naturally into existence. It will also not die a natural death. It can get wound. So the correct word, which is winding up of a company, that you have to undergo the process of winding up. Then only the company gets into, like, it stops its business. So even if there is no business in the company, you cannot say that yes, the exact words yes, which is perfect. People may come and go, but company goes on. Exactly, that is a word which is being used. Like I told you, the property is separate property. I can't tell that, oh, even though I'm holding some stake in Reliance, can I say, oh, this refineries is mine, I'm owning this refinery? No, the assets are of the company and not of the shareholders, and not of the board of directors as well. So you cannot claim, oh, this factory. So for example, having 100 shares in, say for example, which is a okay Reliance. Then we saw TCS. Okay, I'm having 10% stake in TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, the biggest one of the IT company in India. So if I own something, I cannot say, oh, this office is mine. No, the office remains of TCS, not mine, even though I'm the shareholder. I have a share, but that doesn't mean the property of TCS is my property. Unlike what we saw in partnership or what we saw in sole proprietorship, this is not the case in case of a company. The properties of the company remains the property of the company. Transferability of shares. So like I told you, the shares remain with the company. Transferability is what is a key feature of a company. That I am in need of money, I sell my shares, and that's why if you see the stock exchanges, right? You see the stock exchange and the below line that Cipla is having this share is what. So that is a valuation of that particular shares of that particular company, and people generally trade, that is buy and sell the shares, as like what we see sell or buy vegetables or likewise. Okay, so that is what transferability of shares, which is a key feature. Capacity to sue and be sued. The company can sue you. The company can enter into a contract. The company can own a land. The company can have employ people. The company can do all the things like a natural person do. Of course, it can't go in jail like a natural person goes. But yes, all other things are available with the company. Limitation of action is what limitation of action we saw. Separate management we saw. Now, like we saw the partnership. What we saw, partnership was for profit, right? We saw that partnership was for profit. Nobody would want to get into a partnership for losses, right? But the feature of a company is you can form what we typically called as Section 8 company. Now, what is Section 8 company? Section 8 company, or the earlier Section 25 company, or company not for profit. So these are all synonymous words: company not for profit, or company Section 8 company, or Section 25 company. What are these companies? These companies are typically where it is not that you don't want to get into profits, but the rule here is, if I want to do some charitable activities. Now, for example, I want to do something for dogs. Okay, I want to do something for rehabilitation of dogs. Now I see that lot of dogs are being just they are being brutally handled by the people or passerby. This is a good thing which I should be doing. I can form a company where I would be doing a social activity, or what we typically call a charitable activity, and then I can do something for dogs, and that is where the money which I invest, I'm still a shareholder, but the profits. Now, what we saw In case of a company or in case of a partnership, the profits are distributed. In case of a company, the profits are distributed to the shareholders, and that is what is called as dividend. Okay, there is a difference between the word dividend and there is a difference between the word which we call as interest. Dividend is what? Dividend is the company earns profit. Okay, the company earns super profits. Like for example, the if you must have seen DMart chain. There are now, since it is only essentials which are being bought by people, or pharmaceutical or COVID related. Somebody gets a COVID vaccine, and thankfully I wish that we get soon that vaccine. So what is going to happen now? The company is into super profit. Say for example, it just discovered the COVID vaccine. Now obviously all the countries are going to buy, entire India is going to buy, or even I would want to buy a vaccine for COVID if we get it, right? The company earns huge profits. Now what it's going to do, it's going to distribute the profits. So the profits have been earned by the company. Now it is just distributing the profits. So I have got these profits. So if you imagine I've got these profits in the company, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute that profits. And that distribution of profit is called as dividend. Okay, that is a distribution of profits is called as dividend. What is interest? Interest is a cost. Okay, interest is a cost. If I borrow money from you, you say, okay, why would I give you money, or why should I not charge interest on that? So interest is something which is a cost, right? You get something when you place deposits with the bank gives you interest on that, right? That okay, you have put in money with us, we are using your money and you are eligible for interest. So that is a cost to the company, or that is a cost to that particular person, right? But distribution of profits is called as, yes, that's what we typically in an accounting language we say interest is a charge on profit. That is what a typical and best thing is. Interest is a charge on profit. And it's okay, just ignore my spellings because I type very fast when I am speaking to you. uh, and dividend is called as an appropriation of profits. What we called it as appropriation, because if you remember, these are the profits and I'm just distributing it. I've already earned the profits, but if I have to calculate profit, I will first give that interest and then I come or arrive at profits. So that is what is called as dividend. Okay, now you understand the concept of dividend. In case of voluntary associations for profit, or organizations not for profit, or section 8 companies, section 25 company, like I'm telling you, all are synonymous. So here the shareholders do not get dividend. The dividend or the profits which have been earned by that company will go back to the objects for which it is formed. So like I was telling you, if I have to do something for dogs, I am taken as a cause that let me do something for stray dogs. Then they are in need of funds, they are not getting any food while COVID scenario is happening, and I want to do something for dogs for lifetime. Then what I'm going to do is I may form a company like section 8 company, voluntary association for profits. I may earn profit. So if I do a particular activity and I get good money out of it, like for example, I don't like the owners want to purchase, not purchase is the right word, but get dogs from me, which I'm, kind of nurturing them. I get money. The money which I earn is put into in the objects for which I cannot put it into my pockets. So this is what is called as voluntary association. There is a term. And of course what we saw, termination of existence. Like a company comes into, it is not coming by way of a natural birth like you and me and have. Similarly, the company will also cannot die a natural death. It has to get wind up, then only the company comes into kind of the operations get closed. So even if there is no business in the company, that doesn't mean the company is alive. The company is alive, definitely. It doesn't mean that the company is closed down, because though business is not there doesn't mean the company is closed down. You have to follow the natural process of winding up, which is prescribed in the law, and then only you can close the operations of the company. Now this is what is understood is uh, Okay, so here we see corporate personality. It is what? It is different from the people who have limited liability, is what we saw. The liability is limited to the extent which we have invested in the company. Perpetual succession is also, we have seen separate possession, transferability of shares, like I told you. In the open market, I can sell my shares, get my money, I can buy shares. So the heads of shares keep on changing. The shares remain with the company, but like I told you, the land example which I gave you, the forefathers and then grandfather, the owner changes, but the land is same. Similarly, the shares remain with the company. The ownership of that shares keep on changing. Company can get sued, contractual rights we saw, limitation of action. This is what we are going to see as a principle. Since for example, you and me understand, right, what we are going to do in life, or what are the objects for which we are doing. So for example, you have enrolled for this, so you know, right, you want to become a CAS, and likewise this is a goal of your life. What about company? It doesn't have, it is not a, it doesn't have a brain on its own, because it is not a natural person like you and me. So here the documents which are called as, I'll help you in the chat box. It is called as Memorandum of Association. Yes, which is typically called as MOA, and AOA is the short form which I'm going to use hence onwards. And it is called as Articles of Association, because like we know where we live, what we do, or what are we going to do next. All these things we as a natural person can decide. But if we're saying company is into existence for a long time, and things are going to be different, and how is the company going to function? We say that okay, shareholders may come and go, people may come and go, but how actually the company is going to function? So there is a charter document. So this is called as the charter documents of the company, where it is written that what is the name of the company. Like you can tell me, right, what is your name? I can tell you, okay, I'm Deepti. So you know my name, I know your name, but how is the company going to tell? The company tells its name in its memorandum of association, that okay, this is the name of the company. Then say for example, DSK Private Limited, or whatever is the name of the company. Then the memorandum states what are the objects for which the company is formed. So what are the, like we say, what are the objects? So what is the goal of your life? So similarly, what is the goal of the company? That is the objects for which the company is formed is in the memorandum. That okay, if it is into manufacturing of rubber, or if it is into manufacturing of goods like furniture or any textiles or pharma, or any kind of artificial intelligence or software or hardware. So what exactly for which the company is formed by the natural person, or of course the corporations, is mentioned in the memorandum of association. That is called as objects for which the company is formed. That is object. Okay, then of course it has the liability clause, that okay, what is the liability? Like my liability is limited. By the way, there are also companies which can have unlimited liability. So the companies can also have unlimited liability, but like I told you, the preferred form will be with limited liability. But yes, there are companies which can have unlimited liability. Separate management. So the memorandum is a key document within which the company should function. So it is like the document which controls the company. So you cannot travel beyond the memorandum of association. And if you travel, then what are the consequences which we are going to see? Similarly, articles of association is what an internal, or how the internal management, what can be the internal management of the company, like who can be the shareholders, or who can be the directors, what are the voting rights of shareholders, what are the voting rights of directors, all whatever is an internal governing management of the company will be in the articles of association. We are going to see that in detail, but I'm just throwing a brief light on that. So you cannot go beyond the memorandum, because that is called as a charter documents, or charter documents, or constitution of the company. Okay. Then nationality, again residence. It is said that of course the company can have do what. So we say okay, this is Pune based company, right? We say this is a Chennai based company. So this is what a company cannot be a citizen. So it, yes, it has nationality, domicile and residence. So yes, we say, right, this is an Indian company, this is a US company, like Facebook Inc. is a US company. We know that, right? Now there is a TikTok thing which is going on too much. We say it's a Chinese company. So yes, nationality is attached to a company. It can be domicile because the major operations of the company are over there, or the company is registered under that particular in a state, or in terms of a nationality, in terms of a country. So that's why we say, right, this is a Chinese company, ban TikTok and likewise things which are going on, because we say, oh, it is a China company, don't buy anything or stop using TikTok. So what we are saying, it's a nationality, it can have domicile and it can have residence. But yes, the company doesn't have got like a natural person, it doesn't have like what a right to freedom and all, because the right to equality and all. So that those things are not there when it comes to a natural person. We are going to see this in constitution as well. So we will discuss more. Corporate personalities, what we have seen. We can take it the next chapter in a while. So you can go through this distinction which we have discussed. I guess this can definitely, if I have to say in nutshell, expenses are huge when it comes to a company than the other forms, because you have got compliances, you have got cost of registration and keeping up meetings. There are a lot of costs when it comes to a company. So yes, this is one of the disadvantages. Disclosures, yes, you can't keep things confidential, everything. You have to show it to the shareholders. You have to, that's why if you see, there are a lot many news and ads or disclosures put in the newspaper that this company is disclosing this and that. So because it is regulated that you need to disclose, there is a separate control from ownership. That, like I said you, that it can be that members are different and the shareholders are different. That's why it is called a separate control from its ownership. Greater social responsibility, because like we saw Satyam case where there were frauds. I'll just finish this and we'll wind up for today. So since there are large money of public involved in it, that's why there is a lot of issues when the disclosures are not made, and there is a lot of responsibility also cast on the company. Greater tax burden, of course, there is a taxation which comes into picture when it is a company, and detailed winding up procedure. Okay, so this is what we will end here today. You can go through the journey of company law concept. I'm not going to take this, so you can come read this because it's a typical history thing which is referred over here. We'll take types of companies, and I'm also just give me a moment. I'm going to give you a homework which you are going to see. Yes, we are going to see topic 6 of drawing inference, and I'm going to take for 10-15 minutes this topic of inference. Okay, topic of inference you have to study and come for the next lecture, and I'm going to take this. We'll spend some time on logical reasoning. As I told you, I'm going to take law and logical reasoning simultaneously, so you're not bombarded with either of them. Okay, and we finish the portion as well. Okay, bye all of you. Take care. Stay safe. And if you have any doubts, I'm giving you my number and my email ID. Please don't bombard me with good morning messages, and I will try to respond as much as possible. But since there would be limitation on my part as well, so please pardon me if I'm not able to respond you. This is my number as well, I'm sharing. Like I hope you use it judiciously and not just spam me on all the messages. Okay, chalo, bye bye. Take care, stay safe, and see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.